So I went ahead, you log in. I had to do some preliminary stuff, but you can start and stop the box by going to operations here. So I started it. It says activate, but right now since it's already active. Then what you can do is like you can set it to run for like 2 hours, and then it's after 2 hours it stops on its own. So you don't, because as it's running, you're paying more and more money. So I went ahead and done that. So I did that around 10, and then it kind of gives you an idea. So right now, like the box is about what 20% capacity that the virtual box I've set up. Gives you the name of the box for the cloud that it's being stored on, the cloud URL. So I take that, and I'm going to go here to Hana Studio, which is basically the interface where you build your views in HANA. So I already log in. It just takes a second. And then there are two things that in the code jammer. There's a catalog that has your tables, and I went here. I know it's my user. So it's the member, the owner of the tables. So I went into code jammer, and I dropped in I threw in a table, basic table for SAP. The only thing I needed from Azure is two things. I needed to know the connection, the cloud URL.
Okay.
And there's a system number, and then my username and password.
Okay.
So I dropped in a table. I just did a very simple import here. I can right click on it and show you what the data looks like. So just some normal data, first name, last name. So I just threw in some data, household income data. I went to File and just did an import of the data set. Very straightforward to get data into HANA. Didn't want to make anything too complicated. So that's in the catalog. The catalog is where you store your raw tables. Your content is where you create your views, your analytic views, cloud views, and all that jazz. So let's look at that quickly. So you also get a content folder that has the same name as your login. So this will also be Code Jammer. And let's take a minute because my machine is heating up. You can hear the fan. There we go. I know. So here we go. We expand Code Jammer. And I created one analytic view. And it was pretty straightforward. Open up here. And since I'm only dealing with one table, I'm not really joining anything anything too complicated. So what you have here is you have your data foundation, which, as you guys know, is where you're just like a universe. It's very similar. You got your column names. You can kind of edit them here if you want. Create some custom column names. The star schema here is where you would put any other tables and join them. I only brought in one table, keep it simple. And then you got your semantic layer, which you guys know, if you're familiar with universes. Very similar to universes. And as you can see here, you got your typical SAP icons, blue for dimensions, and orange for measures, right? So when you're done with building it, you activate it. You go here and you activate it. I've already activated it, so I haven't made any changes. And we're done with that part. As far as HANA is concerned, you've pulled in data, created a schema, built a view on top of that schema, activate that schema. Now it becomes available for consumption. One thing that HANA allows you to do is it allows you to data preview. So we're going to go ahead here and open a data preview editor. And what this will do is allow you to sort of slice and dice the data. While it's doing that, let me look and see what Lemire is doing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'll do this here. I'm going to create a new connection. And as you can see here, I already have a connection set up. It's got the name, the server, the HANA server that we have, username and password. So I'm going to go ahead and just connect it to it. And it's got my customer group view that I created for Code Jammer. So I'm just going to select, I'm going to say I want that one. And I'm going to hit create. And while it's doing that, let's go back and look at the... Okay, so this is the where you can create a query inside of HANA Studio. So if I wanted to say I wanted to bring in the education on the axis, and I want to see the number of cars in the measure, it can create a query for me right in there. So I'm just going to leave this open because I'm going to create the same query in Lumira, and then I'm going to go ahead and create it in Webby as well. So you can kind of see how it is. So here, it's still preparing the source.
So again, in Studio, that they're similar to IDT, where you can kind of sanity check your work.
Yeah,
Kind of
do a check-in to see how it's looking. Make sure everything looks okay. You know, your join isn't crazy. You're not getting a crazy number. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to bring in a number of cars into the measure. And I'm going to bring in education into the dimension. And then I'm going to make it a bar chart. What is this? Oh, that's a multi. I just want a regular bar chart or column chart. So there you go. So I got the same here data in here that I got in here, which is here. So everything is fine. It's testing fine. Last thing I did is I went ahead and created a connection in our BobJBox 4.2. So let me pull that one up. So you got to go in and create an Olap connection, even though it's not an Olap.
Right.
That's why I was saying it's kind of hybrid. So let's go ahead and log into the CMC. So I went into the connections. Olap connections right here.
That's simply to handle the Olap type hierarchy.
Yes, and you're going to see that in Webby. So if I click on this guy, and I call it CCG HANA Azure, I put in the same server name, the instance 00, I predefined the authentication, and I use the code jammer username password. Nothing too fancy there. So now let's log into the Launchpad, and we're going to go into Webby, and I'm going to create a Webby report based off of HANA. So now you have SAP HANA has to be HANA Online. We're going to use the SAP HANA. HANA Online is actually HANA Live, this is not what we have. We just want the SAP HANA connection for Webby. So we're not going to use the universe, we're going to use this one here. You get the connection here, you go to the folder, and this is the one we want. And once it says OK, here we go to Code Jammer. I should see my customer group, hit OK. And at this point now, you're basically just working like any other universe report based on Webby. So there are some differences. I'll show you. Pull in education. Now, just so you know, you see here you have these hierarchies. If I pulled in education here and pulled the number of cars owned, here's what happens. It's going to show you all. It's going to show all. And then the number of cars, it's going to roll it up.
Yeah, so you have to drill down essentially.
But I'll just show you both ways how it's done. So. It's creating a default hierarchy, which doesn't really exist. It's like, I don't need to know the total. I can do it myself.
Yeah.
But it's okay. So you get here, all.
Thanks.
Which is great. Thank you. So I go back here, and I actually got to go here, and I'll take this guy out. I'm going to bring in the description, and then pull that one in. And then if you run it again, there are settings in the Hana Studio
So you can just bypass all that?
to create. I have not, to be honest with you. HANA on top of Webby is pretty new, so I haven't had a chance to play with it that much. So even when I was working with HANA, this feature wasn't really available then. So now what I'll do is I'll bring in education, put it here. Now it's starting to look a lot.
User friendly.
Yeah. Which is, if we go back to Hana Studio, here, and we want to convert this into a table, we get the same numbers. So usually when that's done, what I usually end up doing, and I'm done, I go back here. I click on suspend. It says, do you want to suspend the instance? I do. And then the virtual machine shuts down. HANA goes down. All the stuff connections are dead, but that way you kind of save your money and you can kind of work as you go. So